Hi, I'm Rivka Miriam. I grew up in Denver, Colorado, but I made Aliyah 2 years ago, so I live in Israel now. Um, I would love for this year to be interactive, so if people are comfortable with reading sources, that would be great. If not, no problem, I can do them. English, Hebrew, whatever you're comfortable with, it does not really matter. Also, I'd love if anyone has any questions or comments or just wants to ask me about making Aliyah or anything after this year, feel free to reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. Let's get started. I've always been interested in the Jewish calendar and specifically leap years because I was born in a leap year during a leap month. I was born in Adar Sheni 5760. So it's always been something that I was interested in. I'll talk mostly about leap years, but I'll also talk a little bit about how we determine the length of the months, just because it'll be relevant later. Looks like I cut off a little bit. Okay, I'm back. So how do we determine the length of Jewish months? It used to be that Rosh Chodesh was established by two witnesses coming to Beit Din saying they saw the new moon. And then if Beit Din found their testimony to be good, then they would declare the new month. But nowadays, it's a little different. And let me try screen sharing. How do we determine the length of the months? This is from Rambam's Mishnah Torah. It says, so this matter, meaning how we determine the months, is a halacha Moshe Sinai. So Hashem taught it to Moshe at Har Sinai when Moshe was receiving the Torah. Shebizman sheyesh Sanhedrin kovin al pi hariyah, ubizman she'ein sham Sanhedrin kovin al pi hacheshbon hazeh, shanu mechashbin bo hayom ve'ein zakikin l'riyah. So in the times that there was a Sanhedrin, so when there was a Beit HaMikdash, like I said, the witnesses would talk to Beit Din, and then Beit Din would declare the new year or the new month. But nowadays we have a calendar that we calculate based on the calendar. So just kind of put that in the back of your head. That'll be relevant later. How many months are in a year? So before we talk about a Jewish calendar, let's talk about types of calendars in general. So there's a solar calendar. It's the amount of days in a year are determined based on how many days it takes the sun to orbit the earth. So that's 365.24. But since we can't have a day with a partial, since we can't have a year with a partial day, we add in an extra day every fourth year in order to make every year consist of a complete number of days. So there's 365 days in a regular year, times 3 is plus 366, which is the leap year, divided by 4. That gives us 365.25, which is about equal to that number. So that's a solar leap year. That's a solar leap year. That's also the Gregorian year. Like that's what most secular societies use nowadays. There's also a completely lunar year, which is the length of the months are determined based on how long it takes the moon to orbit Earth on average. So that's 29.5 days. And if there's 12 months per year times 29.5 days per month, that would be 354 days per year. So we know that the seasons are determined based on the solar year. So if you have a completely lunar calendar, you're going to be off because there's 354 days, but there's 365 days in a solar year. So you're off by 11 days. So that means in societies such as Islam and other places like other religions, their holidays are not going to be at the same time of year every year. They're going to go back 11 days every year. So what does Judaism use? There's also a concept of a lunisolar calendar, which is what we'll talk about right now. Would anyone like to read just the bold parts?
Yeah, I'll do it. English and Hebrew, just one.
Whatever you'd like.
Okay, I'll try my best with the Hebrew here. Okay, just the bold. Okay, Chad Shehashana him Chad Shehalavana. The months of the year are the lunar months. Shenemar Olas Chodesh Bechadsha. The monthly burnt offering for each new moon. Benemar Chodesh Hazelachem Rosh Chodeshim. This month shall be for you the beginning of the months. To the bottom?
Yeah.
Ve'ashanim sha'anu machshivin him shnei hachama shenemar shamor chodesh ha'avi. But the years that we calculate are solar years, as it is stated, guard the month of the spring.
Awesome,
So
thank you.
how does the spring, guard the month of the spring tell you it's solar?
Right, so that's what we're going to talk about. So kind of
Okay.
keep
Good.
that in the back of your head, Shamor Chodesh Aviv, how we'll, I guess, turn that into halacha. So what I just wanted to show from the source is that the Jewish calendar, the months are lunar months and the years are solar years. But we already saw that doesn't work out. So let's figure out how to make that work out. Who would like to read this? English, Hebrew, whatever you'd like. Or I can also. Either way.
I think it's calling your name. This starts calling your name.
I sorry, my mic was off. I can read it in English if
Awesome.
that's okay.
Go
Yeah?
for it.
Okay. The solar year exceeds the lunar year by 11 days approximately. Hence, whenever this excess accumulates to about 30 days, somewhat more or less, 1 month is added and the year is made up of 13 months and is called a leap year. The year cannot consist of 12 months plus several days, because it is written months of the year, implying that the year should be reckoned by months and not days.
Awesome, thank you. So I brought this source just to show that to solve the issue of the solar year being 11 days longer than the lunar year, why don't we just add 11 days every year? We can't do that because it says in Shemot, l'chodshei hashana, the months of the year. So we can't add days to a month. We have to add complete months. And then I brought this math to kind of show how this would work in real life. So we know 365, which is the solar year, does not equal 354, which is the lunar year. But if we add a leap month, so 30 days, 7 times in a 19th year cycle, 354, which is the lunar years, plus 30, so that's the leap month, times 7, there's 7 leap years in a 19-year cycle, plus 12 regular lunar years, the average of that is 365. So that's how we kind of make that work. Also, a disclaimer, a Jewish non-leap year can have 353, 354, 355 days, and a Jewish leap year can have 383, 384, or 385 days. The equations above are purely just to explain the concept of a Jewish leap year. So it's not to really make a calendar out of, it's just to show the concept, because the amount of days in the year change based on certain things. Why is it so important that the solar year and lunar year align? Would anyone like to read?
Do you want me to just read in English since it's kind of long?
Sure.
A leap year is a year to which an extra month is added. Only Adar is the month that is ever added, so that a leap year has 2 months of Adar, a first Adar and a second Adar. Why is just this month added? Because of the spring season, so that Pesach should be observed during the barley season. As it is written, observe the month of Aviv and keep the Passover, implying that this month of Nisan should occur during the spring. Without the addition of this month of Adar, Passover would occur sometime in the summer and sometimes in the rainy season of winter.
Awesome, thank you. So we know that we add a month on every leap year, but which month do we add? We add Adar, and that's because it says, remember I said to remember Shamor Chodesh Aviv, so that's where this comes back up. We have to make sure that that Pesach takes place in the spring. So in order to do that, we add a month right before Pesach if we see that it's not going to be in the spring. And we also see, so the Torah places an emphasis on having Pesach in the spring. But I also wanted to point out that even though that's the reason why we have leap years, also there's emphasis placed in the Torah with all other holidays, with all the Shalosh Regalim, as to agricultural significance to them. So Pesach is Chag HaAviv, Shavuot Chag HaKatzir and Chag HaBikurim, and Sukkot is Chag HaAsif. So it wouldn't make a lot of sense to have a harvest festival or a new fruit festival if there's no new fruit or there's no harvest. So it's important to have everything lined up. So now we know that we're going to add a month before Pesach, which is Adar. But which Adar would we celebrate Purim in? Because now we have 2.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do we know why we add the month only in Adar? Like why that's the one we add, not any other month?
I think it's because I didn't see this in any sources, but I'm assuming that it's because we want to make sure that specifically Pesach is in the spring. So if we see that it's not going to be spring yet, we're going to add an extra month so that we make sure that it's in the spring.
Got it.
Okay. I don't know if we really need to read the source inside. I was just going to show the bold part where it says, "L'kayem alehem liyot osim et yom 14 l'chodesh Adar v'et yom 15 bo b'chol shana v'shana." So in Megillat Esther, it just shows like when they're explaining what we're going to do every year to commemorate Purim, it just says the 14th and 15th days of Adar. It doesn't say Adar Rishon or Adar Sheni. So we have this question. So let's turn to the Mishnah and the Gemara to figure this out. I can read this because everyone else already read. Matnitin, we learned in the Mishnah. Karu et Megillah b'Adar Harishon v'nita b'Ashana karinota b'Adar Sheni. If you read the Megillah in Adar Rishon and then a leap year was declared, you have to read the Megillah in Adar Sheni. And I think we can imply from this that if you read the Megillah, like you're reading in Adar Rishon of the Megillah, doesn't do anything. You're not Yosei through it. You have to then do it in Adar Sheni, implying that you could just skip Adar Rishon and just do it in Adar Sheni. But I guess in this case, they didn't know it was going to be a leap year, so they read it thinking that it was Purim. And this Gemara on the Mishnah, there's a long discussion in the Gemara about why we celebrate Purim in Adar Sheni, but I just brought one reason. But I encourage you to look at it by yourself if you'd like to. There's more discussion. I'm just bringing one part of it that I think is relevant. Rabbi Tavi, Taima Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, Mismach Gula Legula Adif. So Rabbi Tavi says the reason of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, who's the one that said that we're going to read in Adar Sheni, is because we want to put redemption juxtaposed to redemption. So what are these two redemptions? Rashi helps us out, Purim LePesach. So since Pesach is in Nisan, we're going to want to do Purim in Adar Sheni because it's right before Nisan. Now we have a question because we have Purim and Adar Sheni during a leap year, but what's going to happen in Adar Rishon on the 14th and 15th of Adar? Is it just a regular day? What's going to happen? And also a fun fact, this is the last Siman and Sif of Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim. Okay, I'm going to skip the title and I'm just going to go right here. Yom Yudal v'Vav she'b'Adar Rishon ein noflim al panehem ve'ein omrim mizmor yancha Hashem b'yom tzara v'asurim b'hesped u'v'tanit aval shar dvarim ein noagim b'hem v'yesh omrim daf b'hesped v'tanit mutarim. On the 14th and 15th of Adar Rishon, we're not going to say Tachanun, we're not going to say Lam Natzeach, which is in Shacharit in between Ashrei and Uval Etzion. We're not allowed to give a eulogy and we're not allowed to fast, but Shar Dvarim, I'm assuming that's talking about the other mitzvot of Purim. So that would be a feast, Megillah during the night and during the day, Mishlach Manot and Matanot Lavyonim. We don't do them in Adar Rishon, in the 14th to 15th of Adar Rishon, which is called Purim Katan. But some people say that you're allowed to fast and you're allowed to give a eulogy. That was the Shulchan Aruch. Now the Rama chimes in, Haga. This is the Ashkenazi opinion. V'aminha kisvara rishona, and we behave like the first opinion, meaning you're not allowed to give a eulogy and you're not allowed to fast. Some people say you're obligated to make a feast and you're obligated to be happy on Purim Katan, but we don't paskin like this. Nevertheless, we're going to encourage you to increase your food a little bit. So make your food a little better than usual in order to fulfill all obligations or all opinions. That was the halacha part. Does anyone have any questions or comments up until now? Awesome. Yeah? You have a question?
Nice. I think we're good. We're good.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So here's some hashkafa or a message or something to think about. So the brachot for Kiddush and Amidah for Shabbos is Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadesh HaShabbat. But for Yom Tov, it's Mekadesh Yisrael V'Azmanim, and for Rosh Chodesh, it's Mekadesh Yisrael V'Roshei Chadashim. So I thought this was a little bit strange because it makes sense why we would say that Hashem makes Shabbos Kodesh, because that makes sense. But why for Rosh Chodesh and for the holidays, why are we adding in Yisrael? That's kind of random. So it says in Gemara Brachot, would someone like to read this?
Sure. Okay. Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazman. Yisrael dekadshinu lizman. Mekadesh Yisrael v'hazman v'rashei chadashim. Yisrael dekadshinu l'rashei chadashim. So who sanctifies Israel in the seasons? It means who sanctifies Israel, who sanctify the seasons. Like the Jewish people sanctify the seasons, yeah?
Yeah.
So who sanctifies Israel in the new moon? It means who sanctifies Israel, who sanctify the new moons. We also sanctify Rosh Chodesh.
Awesome, thank you. So the Gemara in Brachot is going to say a different way to read this. So we're not saying, blessed are you Hashem, who makes Yisrael Kodesh and who makes the holidays Kodesh. We're going to say, blessed are you Hashem, who sanctifies Bnei Yisrael, who sanctify the times. So we're changing the way that we're looking at it to change the meaning. So Kedushat Yom Tov is dependent on human effort, right? Because Shabbos, it happens every 7 days. We know this from the creation narrative. Hashem chose the seventh day to rest. So therefore, every seventh day is Shabbos. But if there is no Bnei Yisrael to sanctify the new moon and thereby set the dates for the holidays, there is no Kedushat Yom Tov. It's all dependent on human effort. And it says in this past week's parsha, one of the parshiot, Kedoshim, Daber al kol adat bnei Yisrael v'amarta elehem kedoshim tiyu ki kadosh ani Hashem Elokechem. Hashem commands us, be holy because I am holy. And this is also talked about in Rambam's Mishnah Torah. This is actually talking about the mitzvah of Ve'alachta b'drachav, but I think it's still the same idea, so I still brought it. Mahu nikra chanun afa tahaya chanun. Just as Hashem is called gracious, we should be gracious. Mahu nikra rachum afa tahaya rachum. Just as Hashem is called merciful, we should also be merciful. Mahu nikra kadosh afa tahaya kadosh. Just as Hashem is called kadosh, we should also be kadosh. And by emulating Hashem, we are bringing Hashem into our lives. And I have a challenge for everyone. Find one aspect of your life, one action that you do on a regular basis, and remind yourself of why you're doing it. So do I brush my teeth just so I don't get cavities, or do I also brush my teeth because there's a mitzvah to take care of my body? Do I just eat to keep myself alive, or do I also eat to fuel myself to be a better Eved Hashem? So the action stays the same. You just choose one action. It doesn't have to be everything, because doing a complete mindset change can be really hard. Just choose one little thing and kind of remind yourself of why you're doing it. And the shift to God awareness and mitzvah awareness can bring so much meaning to the seemingly mundane tasks. And it's also one way we can consciously bring more Kedusha into this world. That's what I've been trying to show throughout this whole thing, is that, well, also to teach some halacha that I thought was interesting, but also to kind of show that Kedusha is dependent on our effort. Thank you. That's it. Yishar Koach.